Talk about a bounce back year for Baylor. The Bears went 3-9 in 2023, but turned it around quickly in 2024, going 8-5, winning their final 6 regular season games before falling to LSU in their bowl game. And now the Bears are a legitimate Big 12 title contender. Dare I say, they're a legitimate college football playoff contender. I'm getting shades and feelings of 2021, where Baylor kind of came out of nowhere, ended up winning the conference, just narrowly missed out on the college football playoff, and then ended up beating Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. That's how good this team can be. Watch out for Baylor in 2025. Before we jump into this roster, you go look at last year. Dave Aranda, I really think, did a phenomenal job and really saved his job too. 2021 was a great year. 2022, not so much. 2023, not good at all. It felt like 2024, he was on the hot seat a little bit, and when Baylor got off to a 2-4 start, it looked like that was the end of the Dave Aranda era. No one, I think, saw Baylor turning it around as quickly as they did. 2-4, looked like they were on track for another losing season, won their final 6, and now they've got so much talent coming back that not only is his job safe for now, but could be safe for a long time if he delivers. Take a look at the offense. 10 starters are back for Baylor on the offensive side of the ball, an offense that improved by 11.3 points per game last year. That's a remarkable statistic. 34.4 points per game is what they were averaging last year. 440 yards per game. Fairly balanced. 261 through the air. 179 on the ground. This year, just like they were last year, are now led by Sawyer Robertson at quarterback, who for me is not just one of my favorite quarterbacks within the Big 12, but one of my favorite quarterbacks in the entire country. Got a great size, great frame, very strong arm, threw for over 3,000 yards and 28 touchdowns last year. The Bears returned their star running back, Bryson Washington, who rushed for over 1,000 yards last season and 12 touchdowns. And they've got Dawson Pendergrass as well, who rushed for over 680 yards and 6 touchdowns. So a very solid 1-2 punch in the running back core. 4 starters are back on the offensive line, one that only gave up 19 sacks last year, could be even stronger this year. And the wide receiver core looking to be very, very solid. Their top wide receiver from last year, Josh Cameron, returns, had 754 yards and 10 touchdowns. And finally, Ashton Hawkins has been free. The NCAA really just kind of holding him hostage. Granted him that extra year of eligibility, then took it away late. And we've just been waiting in limbo. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? And all signs now pointing that he's finally playing. The NCAA finally doing something right for once, even though the original decision was horrendous and disgusting. But you've got Cameron coming back. Hawkins was second on the team with over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he's back. And then you've got your star tight end, Michael Trigg, who is dang near unstoppable when I play as Baylor on the College Football 26 video game on the PS5. And hopefully that's going to translate to some good success on the field for Baylor in 2025. So top 2 pass catchers, strong tight end, 2 great running backs, strong offensive line, really good quarterback. The offense is going to be phenomenal. The defense, some could argue, could be even better. 8 starters are back. They're loaded on all 3 levels. The defensive line returns Jackie Marshall, who had 3 sacks last year. But to me, the linebacking core is what I'm most excited about if I'm Baylor. It's really, really good. Their number 1 tackler from last year resides in that linebacking core. Keaton Thomas had 114 tackles and 2.5 sacks. They add Travion Barnes in from Florida International, was a first-team Conference USA selection last year, had 129 tackles and 3 sacks last season with the Panthers. Carl Williams also returning in the linebacking core. The secondary returns Devin Bobby, who had 3 interceptions, returns Caden Jenkins, and adds Devin Turner in from Northwestern. He had 3 interceptions last year with the Wildcats. Baylor, I will say, needs to improve across the board. The defense wasn't bad last year, but definitely wasn't great. 234 passing yards per game is what they gave up. Allowed 152 rushing yards per game. Would like to see that number come down quite a bit. I would expect they will. With a veteran team like Baylor has, a defensive-minded coach, and Dave Aranda, expectations are high. The offense can help out the defense this year, unlike they were able to do in the previous years. This has an opportunity to be a very, very special year down in Waco. You take a look at the schedule, though. Baylor has a brutal, brutal schedule, and you're going to learn a lot about this team within the first 4 weeks. So you'll learn within the first 4 weeks whether or not Baylor is going to live up to this preseason hype or if they're going to fall way short of that. Because, look at that. They play Auburn in the season opener, which is a massive game. They go on the road to SMU, who made the college football playoff. And then after Samford, they play Arizona State for their Big 12 opener. And as we know, the Sun Devils won the Big 12 last year and made the college football playoff and probably should have gone further. Should have defeated Texas. So within the first 4 games of the year, you could see Baylor start 1-3. And all this hype that's been generated for months all goes out the window. You could see them start 4-0. And now we're talking about Baylor as a legitimate national title contender. If I'm looking at Baylor here, I'm hoping to start at least 3-1, worst case scenario 2-2, because if they did lose 2 games, only one of them, assuming it was to Arizona State, would be a conference loss, and that doesn't derail your entire season. So definitely a much tougher schedule, because after that, you got to play Kansas State, you got to go on the road to TCU, you got to play Utah. So a very tough schedule for the Bears. But I'll tell you right now, those first 2 games against Auburn and SMU, the Bears are going to split them. And here's how it's going to go. They're going to beat Auburn, and they're going to lose to SMU. So they're going to split their first 2 games, and I feel very confident in that. So if you disagree with me, fine. Lose to Auburn, beat SMU. I don't think Baylor loses both. I like the game against Auburn a little bit more because it is at home. And while I do think Auburn does have a bounce back year, I guess, with Hugh Freeze, still a lot of question marks there. Does Jackson Arnold really pan out at quarterback? And will he do so and do well in a new offense with a new team in a hostile environment in the season opener? So can he deliver with, everybody raves about Auburn's wide receiver core. That's not going to matter if Jackson Arnold can't deliver. So that's something I'm watching out for there as well. The Auburn defense does lose, 5 of their top 7 tacklers from last year. The front 7 has a few questions. Baylor has a very balanced offense. They can beat you through the air. They can beat you on the ground. So I think right now I'd lean Baylor offensively. Defensively, probably slightly lean Baylor, plus home field advantage. I like them over the Tigers. Going to be a great game on Friday night, though. Then on the road to SMU, going to have them losing that game. Now they got to go on the road, very hostile environment against a playoff team last year. Kevin Jennings going to be very difficult to stop for this Baylor defense. They've got, Jennings is back and mobile. You've got a very strong offensive line that SMU has. The defense for SMU only gave up 100 rushing yards per game last year, and they have a very strong secondary. So if that rushing defense is strong again, that's going to force Solly Robertson to win the game solely through the air, which he's capable of doing, but is he able to do that against this strong of a secondary on the road? I'm going to say no. So they lose to SMU. They're 1-1. They'll beat Samford. They are 2-1. So they've at least split. At the worst case scenario, they have split those first 4 games that we mentioned. And I do believe that's what's going to happen because I think they actually lose at home to Arizona State. I think the Sun Devils match up very well with Baylor. I think they can match them offensively step for step. I think Sam Levitt's the real deal, as we saw last year. Kanye Udo from Army is a fantastic pickup. And a fantastic replacement for Cam Scatteraboo. Jordan Tyson returns, a 1,000-yard receiver for the Sun Devils last year. So good quarterback play, good wide receiver play, good running back play, good offensive line play. And their defense could be one of the best in this conference with 9 starters back. So I think Arizona State, you could argue, owns the edge everywhere in this game with the exception of home field advantage. I think they can overcome that. Baylor is 2-2 their first 4 games. And people are probably viewing this as a disappointment. They were 2-4 last year when they started. They won their final 6 regular season games. You look at this now, all this preseason hype, they're 2-2, maybe out of the top 25. But I'm telling you, don't worry. Don't worry. The schedule will lighten up a little bit down the stretch. They've just got to make sure they're still in contention a little over halfway through the year. And I think they will be because 2-2 through the first third of the season, they get their next 2 games against Oklahoma State and Kansas State. I think the Bears win both. I think they will cruise past the Cowboys. I know it's in Stillwater. That can be a difficult place to play, but Oklahoma State was one of the worst teams in the nation last year. 3-9, a shocking season for Mike Gundy and the Cowboys. Now they have so many questions. Last year, they were supposed to be a playoff caliber team with as much experience as they had coming back. Now they lose all that experience. They went 3-9. I just, despite as much as I love Mike Gundy, as much faith as I have in him, I don't think he has enough to beat Baylor. Baylor had 565 yards against his Oklahoma State defense last year, beat them by 10. I think they win by about the same margin this year. And then Kansas State, certainly a tough team, a tough game, a battle between 2 teams that have Big 12 title aspirations. But this is a game where the Baylor front 7, which I do like a lot, can shut down the Kansas State run game. Then I don't think Avery Johnson can win solely through the air, right? I need to see improvement for Avery Johnson as a passer. I think he will improve, and he's actually got some good wide receivers to help him out. But can he do that on the road in Waco? So the Baylor rushing defense shows up against a Kansas State rushing offense that's really, really good. They shut that down, make them one-dimensional. They win the game. I think that's exactly what Dave Aranda draws up. They force Avery Johnson to throw. He can't do it. The Bears win. They're 4-2 at the halfway point of the season, and I say breathe a little bit. Again, that is a brutal way to start the year. In the first 6 games, you're playing an SEC team, 2 playoff teams, and a Kansas State team that won 9 games last year as a true playoff and Big 12 title contender. And Baylor manages to go 4-2 in that with only 1 conference loss. Looking pretty good. Coming out of that bye week, they go on the road to TCU. This is a very, very tough game. I like this TCU team a lot. Baylor won a thriller last year, 37-34 over the Horned Frogs, but TCU's got their number. The Horned Frogs have won 8 of the last 10 against the Bears. 8 of the last 10 against the Bears. So think about that. 10 losses, or 10 games, only one of them was last year for TCU that they lost. I mean, it's very, very interesting about how well TCU has been doing in this rivalry series. I actually think TCU wins this game now in 2025. A bit of revenge for the Horned Frogs this year. I know Baylor's coming off that week of rest. I know it's going to be a trendy pick for Baylor to do that, especially with as good as this team's going to be. But I look at this TCU team, I'm probably higher on them than most, but I love Josh Hoover, who threw for nearly 4,000 yards. I think he's really going to challenge this Baylor secondary. This TCU defense has 8 starters back, a defense that only gave up 185 passing yards per game. So again, the same type of thing here. I think this TCU defense can make Baylor's offense one-dimensional, kind of similar to that SMU game we were talking about. And if they do that, can the Baylor run game alone win the game through the air? If they shut down the run, can Sawyer Robertson solely by himself through the air win on the road? I just don't think so. So I think TCU gets their revenge. Baylor loses their 4-3. People are very upset about that. They've already got 2 conference losses, 3 losses already. You look like you're trending towards last year maybe being 8-4 again, which isn't good enough. You know, this is the year where Baylor should exceed their 8-win mark they had last year. But I say, hey, have you looked at the schedule yet? 4-3 is not an ideal start, but look at who's left. Cincinnati, UCF, Utah, Arizona, and Houston. The toughest game left in that 5-game period is at home against Utah. That's the toughest game Baylor's got left, at least in my eyes. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Baylor wins out. Last year, they ended the year with 6 straight wins in the regular season, won their final 6 regular season games. This year, we think they win their last 5 regular season games. They should beat Cincinnati. As long as they're not hung over after a loss at TCU, they should bounce back against a Cincinnati team that, just awareness-wise wasn't great last year, was horrendous in the final few minutes of the first half, blew some massive leads in there. I don't think this offense can keep up with Baylor, and the Bearcats did give up over 163 rushing yards per game. Could be a big day on the ground for Bryson Washington. Baylor gets the win. They cruise past Scott Frost and UCF. Homecoming for the Bears in Waco. UCF dealing with way too many new pieces, new players, new coach. Not going to be a great season for the Knights, although they will get there. They come out of their bye week. They take on Utah. As we mentioned, that's the toughest game they've got left, and the Utes are a true playoff contender this year in my eyes. Baylor has lost the last 2 to the Utes, lost at home 2 years ago by 7, and then lost last year in Salt Lake City 23-12, in a very low-scoring game, and a game where both offenses struggled. But now, coming off a week of rest, at home, kind of getting hot, knowing that their Big 12 title hopes are still alive, I should add. 2 losses does not rule you out, as we saw last year. I feel very good about Baylor winning this game, and the reason is because I'm worried about Devin Dampier. I think he's going to be electric for Utah, but I'm worried to see him in this environment against this good of a defense. He is electric on the ground, very mobile, has a good arm, but his decision-making is questionable. So I think Dave Aranda has a great game plan to keep him in the pocket, force him to win the game solely through the air. Utah's wide receiver core isn't all that great. Dampier's decision-making has been questionable. Utah's defense will only be able to do so much and only be able to hold on for so long. I think Baylor's able to get this win. They beat Utah, and they should cruise past Arizona and Houston, who both will struggle a little bit this year. Maybe both be a little bit better than they were last year, but none of them world beaters by any means. I'd honestly say Arizona might be slightly tougher just because it's on the road, but Baylor, in theory, shouldn't have an issue with either of them. Meaning, we have the Bears going 9-3 in 2025, and if you look, only 2 conference losses to Arizona State and TCU. Meaning that even though they are 9-3, even though some other teams in the Big 12 we've already predicted might have 10 wins, Baylor, depending on tie-breaking scenarios, could find themselves in the Big 12 championship game. That probably is the only way they have a shot at the college football playoff. They're going to need a miracle and need some tie-breaking help to get into that Big 12 title game. If they win that, they're in. They go to the playoff. 9-3, probably not going to be good enough to get them in, although you never know. None of their losses are bad. They would end the year with 5 straight wins, getting hot. Maybe they get some help. Maybe they do slip into that 12-team playoff as a 3-loss team. We almost saw it happen last year. I think someone will see it happen to them this year. But regardless, whether they make the playoff or not, whether they make the Big 12 title or not, it is an improvement. It is a 9-win season. They will go to a very good bowl game. They improve on last year's win total. They will have a shot at a double-digit win season. And that's something that, again, 2 years ago when Baylor went 3-9 and Dave Aranda entered last year on the hot seat, didn't really seem like a possibility. He's going to stay in Waco. He has saved his job last year. He continues to save his job this year. Baylor, an absolute force to be reckoned with. And in my eyes, 1 win away from really being in the college football playoff. One win that we had projected as a loss. They pull off one of them, they will go to the college football playoff. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks. Hurry up and sign up for those today before the season gets going. Also home to our weekly newsletters over on thegridironexpert.com. Take advantage of it. Become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.